Alive on the Moon. Charo. It's on the Pen Alive. With your host David Knapp.
Thank you, Clap Track, and happy Thursday night. I'm your host, Dave Knapp, man of the Manjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Sex, Scientific, Toes, Trulicity, Manjaro, Zepbound, Compound. That pen is what we talk about. 101 episodes in. I hope that you enjoyed last week's 100th episode. I can't believe we've been doing it for this long. And we've got a great show in store for you tonight with our friend Charles Roundmound of Zepbound. He's been around for roughly half of those episodes. And so I'm super excited to have a community member, Charles Roundmound of Zepbound, in with us tonight. And of course, we have our Maintenance Minute from our friend Korrie. We've got an amazing Reddit recap from our friend Allie at Fit Flavor Fun, but I got an announcement to make. So a little bit of a format change to the show. But before we do the format change, I just want to welcome all the members of the channel. Anna, Jayneb, Sabrina, who hosts our bi-weekly Friday night GLP-1 live panel. We got Spoonie Megumi in the house. We've got Neo Queen and Mimi. We got Mrs. Bell. We even got an OG in the house. Deb Zimmerman, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. So excited for tonight's show. If you're new here, drop an N in the chat for new so the community can welcome you here. We'd love to welcome you by name. We are so excited to have more and more people joining the community as more and more people discover these life-changing therapies. But we've got a format change, and I want to get to that tonight, and I want to get to a little bit of why we're going to do that. So if you're not familiar, onthepen.com is ChatGPT's selection for the best place on the internet for patients to get patient-centric information about GLP-1 medications, patient-centric being the operative word. And so if you are not familiar with onthepen.com, you ought to go over there right now, scroll to the bottom, and sign up for email alerts. It's going to take you 30 seconds, but it's going to be your lifeline to staying up to speed on everything that happens in the world of GLP-1 medications. So please, by all means, take a moment to do that. But for the longest time on this show, we've been doing a couple of different segments. You know them as Take Out the Trash Thursday and What's Fresh. But we're going to change up the format because I want to leverage some of the work that we put into onthepen.com. So what we're going to do tonight is we are going to allow the community to choose the topic that we talk about from onthepen.com, from an article that we wrote this week. So I want to give you the opportunity to choose which we talk about. So it's these first six topics. We can talk about the Hims Super Bowl commercial controversy. We can talk about something that I have yet to promote. I've got a long form video coming on this because we've got some big things planned on this, but there's drug shortage legislation. So the way that the drug shortages are reported by the FDA, there's actually some legislation in Congress about that. We can talk about that. The FDA clarified enforcement, their plans to enforce compounds during the shortage, or we can talk about the Amazon book being banned, or this personal blog I wrote about being at a crossroads as a content creator. Let me know in the comments what you would like to talk about. And then I'll just let my moderators in the chat sort of ping me and let me know what people are wanting to talk about. But on the topic of, and of course, we'll have our wonderful Reddit recap from Korrie. We'll have our wonderful Maintenance Minute, our wonderful Reddit recap from Allie, and our Maintenance Minute from Korrie. So let's talk a little bit about some breaking news on the channel, because one of the biggest things that happened this past week was that our book was banned from Amazon. Just banned overnight, no warning, middle of the night on Saturday night, taken down. Basically said that they don't allow medical guidebooks. There are about 150 books like this on GLP-1s, specifically on Amazon. I believe that the book was targeted And just today, I heard from Amazon that their final decision on the matter was actually that they are going to stand by their decision to not allow On the Pen back onto their marketplace. And so I'll just throw this up here. Basically, they said, we're not providing you any more information at this time. We're standing by our decision. So obviously, personally, a super disappointing decision. I'll be working on a fix to this. Many of you ordered the book through the website. What I had for copies, they are gone now. So I sent out about 40 books over the last couple of days. So if you sent me something, I think save for like 2 or 3 things that came in a little bit later, your books are in the mail. So we're going to find out a different way to do this. But the nice thing about Amazon is they make it very easy for both the creator to put something out there and for you to get the book. It's just, I've never been more, I've never felt more defeated about anything that I've done in the content creation world. Yeah, I don't want to belabor it because it's just, honestly, it's just a lot to even go there mentally right now. But we're gonna get. I feel defeated, but I also feel extremely determined that wherever you meet some resistance, it's because there's better things ahead. So we're gonna lean into it, and we're gonna find better things on the other side of this, and we're gonna get this book into more and more hands than Amazon ever would have. So we'll just continue to press forward. But that is the update on that. So now I want to just kind of pivot to cover what you all want me to cover. It sounds like the shortage legislation is something that people would like to talk about. So we'll definitely jump to that topic, and then we'll jump to the OFA FDA topic. It sounds like those are the topics that you all would like to get into tonight. But before we do, I want to do a couple of little housekeeping things real quick. And I want to say a big shout out to Roe, who is sponsoring On the Pen for another year. We're so thankful to be partnering with row.co/OTP. I hope that you'll check them out. I'm hearing story after story after story from people who are successfully using Row to get a positive outcome with their insurance companies when it comes to fighting prior authorizations. I'm hearing so many people being successful with Row. They do this thousands of times a week. I've been telling you, like, if you're trying to get on branded medications, now's a good time to be figuring that out. And Row is very good at that. Row.co/OTP is how you can get in touch with the Row Body Program, where patients lose 15 to 20% of their body weight in a year when coupled with GLP-1 medications, lifestyle modifications. Of course, if you're going to do anything new medicine-wise, familiarize yourself with the potential risks, because there's risks with everything that you put in your body, right? Including GLP-1s. All that safety information is available at onthepen.com, well, you can get there from onthepen.com. You have to click around a lot, but you can go to row.co/OTP, and then ultimately it'll get to the safety info on GLP-1 information. So thank you to Row for continuing to bring OTP to the community. They're the ones that really make this happen. So thank you to Row. Let's see here. Got to just throw this guy back up there. There we go. All right. So let's talk about it, shall we? Let's get into some news. So let's get into the shortage legislation. So the End Drug Shortages Act. Now, if you're not following along at onthepen.com with email alerts, this is just the why you should. I mean, I put a ton of, you guys think I put a ton of effort into the videos that I do. Like the website is a ton of work. And I just think that this is one of the most underutilized and underrated resources in the GLP-1 community. But the End Drug Shortages Act was introduced on a bipartisan basis by Representatives Abigail Spanberger and Adrian Smith, and it's designed to address ongoing medication shortages by improving transparency and accountability in the pharmaceutical supply chain. The bill seeks to expand reporting requirements for manufacturers, ensuring that both production disruptions and surges in demand are factored into shortage assessments. So let's just talk about this, and you can link to this over at onthepen.com. It's HR 10239. We're talking about it here at On the Pen. You'll hear other people talking about it tomorrow or the next day. But this is one that we're really going to work on helping them make this better, right? So let's talk about what this bill attempts to accomplish, and then let's talk about where it falls short. So its main tenet, its core tenet, is to basically improve communication between drug manufacturers, the FDA, and then the outsourcing facilities, right? There's a lawsuit going on right now. So obviously the communication could be better, because otherwise there wouldn't be a lawsuit. The big thing that they're requiring of drug manufacturers to do, though, is to notify the FDA when there is a surge in demand of a drug that's likely to lead to a disruption in the supply of the drug, right? So that's a really good thing. It also establishes a definition of the term surge so that there's some accountability in the reporting of this. It also ensures that the FDA considers information reported by patients, right? That's a big thing, right? Healthcare professionals and manufacturers when designing or when designating a drug shortage. And those two things, basically reporting a surge and ensuring that the FDA considers information reported by patients, healthcare professionals, and manufacturers when designating a drug shortage. Those are two really big things that I believe that it does. And it's interesting. This legislation was brought to the floor at the end of November. At the beginning of November, we actually launched a campaign on a website called Policies for the People. And this website was put up by the just today appointed Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Policies for the People was put out there basically for people to have a say in what policies that they think should be added to different government entities that are not. And so I put together this compound herzepatide and semaglutide transparency in FDA drug shortage process and 503B protection. So a lot of what is in this legislation actually mirrors what we put out. And you can see here on November 1st of 2024, at the end of November, this was introduced on the House floor. I'm not saying that this came from here, but who knows if they're paying attention to this kind of stuff, but it is a positive move. So our objective was a little bit different. It was to mandate that pharmaceutical companies provide transparent and public information on drug shortage data. I think that we can't rely on the FDA. We need to be able to access this as taxpayers as well, and to require that drug manufacturers maintain sufficient buffer stocks. So it's all well and good, but I believe that if a drug's going to come off the shortage list, that the drug manufacturers ought to have to prove that they have enough medication to indeed meet demand, right? And they ought to be able to demonstrate that. And then I would like to see some additional mechanisms in there to secure the right of 503B pharmacies to compound GLP-1 medications during declared shortages, as the GLP-1 shortages are sort of an unprecedented thing. So it fails to go quite as far as it needs to. I think that there should be a buffer stock that should be shown. I think that should be spelled out and codified. And I do believe that there should be some protections in there for 503Bs who were designated to make these drugs when in shortage. That's the whole reason that they were put into place. And so there's legislation. There are, a series of things that have to happen before this would become law. So there's still time to amend this. There's still time to make it better. We are reaching out to the people involved here, to the specific committee that this is being discussed in, and we hope to be able to impact this in a positive way. So that is one of the things that we discussed at onthepen.com this week. I have yet to get to a video on this. I've just had kind of a crazy week. And so the next thing that we'll get to is this right here. The FDA clarifies enforcement against Mounjaro and Zepbound. Now, so, okay, this goes back to the OFA FDA trial that's going on with compound tirzepatide. Again, this legislation, if done right, would negate the need for all of this nonsense, right? And I think that's why it's so sorely needed. We don't need to be living in this completely stressful, high anxiety mumbo jumbo legal battle, right? It's the patients. We're always stuck in the middle. When the insurance company doesn't want to pay the hospital wants their money. Who's stuck in the middle? Patients. When there's no drugs available, but there's compounds and the government wants to take them away, who's stuck in the middle? Patients. It's always the patients who are getting the short end of the stick, right? So this legislation is sorely needed. But back to the topic of this lawsuit going on between the OFA and the FDA. The FDA had basically reached out and given some clarity to the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding, not an interested party in this lawsuit. I don't know why. Seems like they should be, but they're not an interested party in this particular lawsuit, as they represent mostly 503As, is my understanding, where the OFA represents 503Bs. Okay, here's what's interesting. So the FDA sent a letter to Scott Bruner, who is the CEO of the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding. He put out communication a couple of weeks ago, and you can see where that is here. I'm going to share this here. So you can see yesterday we got confirmation that the FDA will continue an enforcement discretion approach to the compounding of copies of tirzepatide. And then he goes down here. He says, what does this mean? In simple terms, sorry, I lost it. What does this mean? In simple terms, the FDA does not plan to take action against compounders who prepare copies of tirzepatide injection, even though the drug has been removed from the shortage list, right? Until litigation in the OFA case is resolved. And as you can see, this came directly from Scott Bruner, the chief executive officer of the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding. So that's where we got our information. I had reached out to Scott at the time. He's been a guest on the show here on the pen. So we have a good relationship. He just didn't feel comfortable sharing with that piece of that actual letter from the FDA at the time. So we didn't share it here, but we took the information that we got from the outsourcing facility, from the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding, and then we were advising the community on basically the fact that if that were the case, that the preliminary injunction really was a moot point, because the FDA was not going to enforce anything. Well, that turns out to have not been the case at all. According to the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding, they put out later on, they put out a clarifying statement that essentially they misinterpreted that letter, right? I missed that update. So we've just been giving you the best information that we've been given. But the FDA put out this clarification on the policy for compounders. And essentially what they say here is February 18th for 503As and March 19th for 503Bs, or until the date of the district court's decision on the plaintiff's preliminary injunction motion in the OFA versus FDA, whichever is longer. So they're basically saying if the preliminary injunction takes longer than those dates, they're going to wait to enforce anything until that preliminary injunction is ruled upon. So they offered that set of clarity, which was a departure from what the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding had said prior to. So those dates are still sort of back in play, February 18th. Now, the next question that you'll inevitably have is, when do we get the next update from the court? I'm looking at somewhere around February 25th. That is, I believe, the 6-week mark from when the OFA would have gotten the unredacted information from the FDA. And so there was that sets off like a timeline where the OFA has a couple of weeks to respond. Lilly and the FDA have then a couple weeks to respond, and then the OFA has a couple weeks to respond back. So unless everybody moves quicker on the timeline, which is to me seems probably unlikely, it will likely be around the 25th, unless people file things earlier, which could happen. I haven't checked it in a few days. It could be that things are moving along a little bit quicker, but the date that I'm looking for is February 25th. So I would doubt that there would be any enforcement. I would doubt that February 18th date won't be, one of the hard dates that gets included in this, but we'll have to see. So that's where the FDA OFA thing sits right now. If you have any questions about this, feel free to drop it in the comments of this video. I'll try to get to them. But that's where that sits. And that seems to be what's important to everybody right now. That's why we have spent such a great deal of time on this channel devoted to covering what's going on in this trial and why we're pushing for legislation that will clear all this up so that we as patients aren't the ones that are sitting wondering what happens next. Am I going to get my life-saving and life-changing medication or am I not? So that is, that's that. I hope that you can make more competent and confident decisions with your medical providing team based upon the information that we provide at On the Pen. Now, let's get to one of our favorite times of the week. For those of you who are in maintenance, drop maintenance in the chat because we've got a little maintenance minute from our friend Korrie over on TikTok. Let's hear from Korrie.
Hi, I'm Korrie. Losing weight with the GLP-1 medication isn't just about shedding pounds. It's about reclaiming health. For many, the struggle isn't simply about diet and exercise. It's about battling a metabolic disorder that made weight loss feel impossible. With the right support, the body finally responds. The weight comes off, health improves, and life opens up in new ways. But what often isn't fully expected is the loose skin left behind. After all the effort, it can feel frustrating to see a body that doesn't match the vision of success. Society celebrates weight loss, but rarely talks about the physical reminders that remain. It's easy to see loose skin as a flaw, but in reality, it tells a powerful story. It's proof of resilience, perseverance, and commitment to long-term health. It's not a failure. It's evidence of overcoming challenges and making choices that support a better future. For some, loose skin is just an adjustment in appearance. But for others, it becomes a real medical concern, causing discomfort, rashes, infections, or limiting movement. In these cases, removal isn't about aesthetics. It's about quality of life. Unfortunately, many insurance companies fail to recognize this need, leaving individuals without access to necessary procedures. That doesn't mean there's no hope for coverage. It just means advocating for the need is essential. Insurance companies often require documentation proving that excess skin is causing medical problems, not just cosmetic dissatisfaction. Keeping a record of issues like recurring rashes, infections, or pain is important, and seeking medical treatment for those conditions helps establish a case. Photos may also be necessary to show how the skin affects mobility or hygiene. In many cases, insurance providers want to see that non-surgical treatments, like medicated creams for skin irritation, have been attempted first. A doctor's support can also make a big difference, especially if a physician provides written confirmation that skin removal is medically necessary. Reviewing policy guidelines and working with an experienced plastic surgeon can improve the chances of approval, but the process takes persistence. No matter the circumstances, whether surgery is an option or not, loose skin does not erase the success of the journey. It does not diminish the strength, discipline, or effort it took to reach this point. Instead of seeing it as something to be hidden, it can be reframed as part of the transformation. The body isn't defined by how tight the skin is, but by its resilience, its ability to heal, and its strength to move forward. Don't allow loose skin to stop you wearing the clothes that you love, taking pictures, or embracing confidence. True success isn't wishing for a continually different body. It comes from recognizing the strength in the journey, standing tall in the present, and moving forward without apology. And that is your Maintenance Minute.
A wonderful word from our friend Korrie. She's at Korrie with an IE.take2 on TikTok. Give Korrie a follow. Really, really good advice there. Really practical advice. I want to key in on just a couple of things that Korrie said there, because I think that many people in maintenance are dealing with this. I think of Jamie, Triplet Dad of TikTok, was on a few weeks ago. He's been on 3 different times to share the different part of his journey. Like after he had lost a significant amount of weight on GLP-1s, then he had surgery. Now he's hit his goal weight. So congratulations to Jamie. I don't know if he's watching or not, but he came on and he was talking about the loose skin issues and talking about what medical issues have sort of arisen because of that loose skin. And I think the really good practical advice baked in there from Korrie is document it. Every time there's an infection, every time there is something medically that is caused by that loose skin, you want to document it, because you're going to have to make a case eventually to the insurance company to get that skin removal, right? It's very expensive without the insurance help, and it's going to be seen as cosmetic unless you can demonstrate that there was a medical need necessitating that. So our friends at our approaching maintenance, be thinking about that and be talking to your doctor about that. Like, hey, we need to be documenting this every time that there's an issue medically that comes up because of the loose skin. And I also loved what Korrie had to say about true success isn't continually wishing for a new body. I just think that's such really great. Like I think there's always going to be this ideal thing in our mind. And if we're always reaching for something better, it's hard to appreciate how far we've come. And so I just appreciate those words from Korrie. Just like, I think when I think of Korrie, I just think of that like motherly wisdom. Like she's not old enough to be my mom, so she's not motherly, but the wisdom that she gives reminds me of my mother, who is extremely wise and does, she just reminds me a lot of my mom in that way. And so I appreciate what Sabrina provides the community, but I appreciate what Korrie provides the community each week with the Maintenance Minute. Now, if you want to have one story tug on your heartstrings a little bit of a departure this week from the norm, we've got a wonderful Reddit recap on deck from our friend Allie at Fit Flavor Fun. I can't wait for you to hear this story. This is an amazing story.
So today's Reddit recap is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to read from a post that was incredibly moving. So this mother, her 28-year-old daughter has Down syndrome, and her daughter is 4 foot 10 inches tall and weighs 240 pounds. So after the mom got on Zepbound and lost an incredible amount of weight, she decided to talk to her daughter's doctor about getting her daughter on Zepbound as well. The daughter struggles immensely with food noise and OCD food compulsion, and her hope was that Zepbound would be able to help with this. So after 2 years of being on Zepbound, she was able to move her up just to the 5 milligram dose, right? So she hasn't titrated up a ton of doses. And she's been able to lose a ton of weight. But the weight is not the most important element to this. One of the things that the mom noted is that beyond the weight, the mental health changes are miraculous. She no longer talks about food. With extra mental space, she talks about her activities, friends, games, family. She is happier and more relaxed, and we aren't adversarial about food anymore. I can't overstate how much better her life is now on this medicine. She's able to self-limit quantity, and she has a better understanding of eating little bits of food or trying something. So one of the areas that she really struggled, that she talked about in her post, was, she would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning before everybody else and eat 6 bagels. So she was really facing a lot of challenges, and the OCD food complaint coupled with the food noise, it was really a struggle. So the daughter's relationship with food has completely changed. She says, now I use phrases like, let's just try a bite of that and see how our bellies feel. Or let's take the rest of this home in a box tomorrow so we don't hurt our bellies. Or we're going to take a break from ice cream for a while. In the past, there's no way that would have worked, that would have been a fight. But now she's just able to take a bite, eat half of a restaurant meal, and not get upset at something that I say no to. So not only has Zepbound helped this young lady immensely with her relationship with food, but it's improved her life overall, her mobility. She's able to be more independent and do things on her own. And it's improved her relationship with her mom and caretaker. And I just wanted to share this moving story with you because we all have stories like this. We all see the improvement in our daily lives. And even for those who are just starting out, you have so much more to look forward to than just the weight loss. This is Allie signing off on your Reddit recap.
I love that. I love that story. Man, as a parent, you can just sort of put yourself in that mom's shoes, just wanting so badly for things to be better for your child to not have to deal with those compulsions, for your child to be living in a healthier body, in a healthier state of mind. And I'm just so happy for that family. I'm so happy for that girl and her mom. And I think it's just such a wonderful, sweet picture of the way that this medication has just a profound effect for people to change their relationship with food, where people just had like no fighting chance before. If, as a side note, if you are not following my friend Allie at Fit Flavor Fun over here on YouTube, her channel is so wonderful, so wonderful. I can't tell you, every single video makes me either laugh or it makes me tear up, or it makes me experience the range of emotions, because Allie is such a personality, and I just connect with her content. I know you will too. So Fit Flavor Fun, what a great story. What a beautiful story to think about, just the overcoming. And I just love it. I love it. And I hope the best for those two. So thank you for sharing that awesome story this week, Allie, on the Reddit recap. Well, we got a great interview lined up, because that's how the show works, right? We do this opening stuff, and then we bring in interview from the community. I'm so excited to bring this interview tonight. Round Mound of Zepbound, our friend Charles, has been part of this community for a good while now, and I'm so excited to hear his story. So tonight's hot channel is our friend Round Mound of Zepbound.
Hot channel.
Charles, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Dave. Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Oh, man. Better than I deserve. All things considered, I'm a blessed man. How about you?
I am absolutely blessed as well. Again, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
It's my pleasure. Yeah. It's so cool. One of my favorite things about this show, particularly because we've always sort of folded a community story into what we do here at On the Pen. Now 101 episodes in, we've been doing this for almost 2 years. And so actually over 2 years, because I think we missed a couple weeks, but It's just so cool to put a face with a name and to put a story with a name. And so I'm really excited to do that tonight, Charles. I know that you have been creating content over here on YouTube for a little bit. So if y'all can see it there, it's probably pretty small, but Round Mound of Zepbound in the bottom there, at Round Mound of Zepbound. First of all, let's start off with the name. How'd you come up with the name?
Funny story. So, back in the 90s, Charles Barkley was a big, huge star in the NBA, and a lot of people always told me I looked like Charles Barkley. We even played a prank on the neighborhood kids of my best friends in my best friend's neighborhood, and they all thought Charles Barkley was over at his house. And funny thing is, my name is Charles. So Charles Barkley's nickname was the Round Mound of Rebound. So I just flipped it to Round Mound of Zepbound.
I love it. I love it. I never put that together. That's amazing. And full circle, he's on the pen.
Yes.
Yeah. So two dudes, same name, same pen, all good.
Yeah.
So let's hear it, man. Tell us about, I know you've got a story. You played college ball. Tell us about how you go from, college athlete to chronic disease of obesity to getting treated with a medicine to contractor. Just sort of take us through that story, if you would.
Well, yeah, I came into obesity later in life as an adult. I think some of the roots of it was planted when I was a kid. I think a lot of people can relate to this. My dad wouldn't let us get up from the table unless we cleaned our plate. He'd often stand over us with a belt to make sure that we did that. So it became a habit to make sure that I ate everything, whether I was full or not. And that served me well as I was going through life and going through athletics and needing to put on weight and muscle to play sports. And so that helped me. So as I went through college,
I don't mean to, can I just interject real quick? Cause I'm just
Sure.
curious. I'm a dad. So you're talking about your dad sort of hanging over you at the dinner table with a belt. Like, I think that a lot of us can sort of relate to that kind of like father figure. Like, you didn't play around. You're going to do this. You're going to get it done. If you don't mind me asking, like, how did that impact the way that you sort of dealt with the dinner table with your own kids? Because for me, it's like one of those things where it's sort of the same thing. I have some core memories of sitting around. My parents didn't, hold a belt at the table. Wasn't quite that intense, but I do have like core memories of like these standoffs at the dinner table. And I just was like, I don't want to create that for my kids. Like, did your experience impact the way that you parented there, or was it kind of inconsequential?
It didn't translate to my parenting, thankfully. And I just put two and two together as I was going through my own journey. This is the root of everything. Especially as I stopped being as I stopped being active. And I just was thinking back to my childhood. It was like, this is where my overeating came from, because I went through, and I played 5 years of college football, including a medical red shirt year, and I just destroyed my body. Those of you that don't know, I played defensive end, so I was hitting on every single play. I'm 250 pounds going against linemen that are 6'6", 6'7", that are 320, 330 pounds, pulling guards, fullbacks doing kick out blocks. So there wasn't a play that I did not have full speed contact with somebody. And it's like a car collision on every single play. And you're doing that 60 to 80 times a game. And that doesn't include what you're doing in practice. That doesn't include what you're doing in spring ball. And you wake up on Sunday morning and you can't walk because your body's just so ravaged. I ended up having 9 surgeries because of football after I stopped playing. It was so bad that my senior year, I didn't even practice during the week. I would just condition and do mental reps so I can play the game. And 3 of those surgeries were bariatric surgeries. So I had a lap band in 2009, I think it was. And I got that physical restriction, but because of my propensity to overeat, and that's how I connected it back to my childhood. You know, producing the overeat, I would often throw up from overeating because the restriction would just get so tight, and it caused some damage to my esophagus. So I ended up
Mhm.
having to get that band removed. They removed it, and I think it was 2004 or early 2014. They removed the saline, so there was no restriction. And I removed it. I think
So 2009, slow it down just a little bit. 2009 to 2015, about 6 years, you had the lap band. What kind of success did you see or not with the lap band, aside from the obvious complications?
it was pretty successful at first. I think I may have lost probably about 50 pounds. But even though you had that physical restriction, you don't have, you're not blocking out the food noise, and you're not pushing away the plate because you're seeing what's on your plate. Oh, I got to eat this. I got to eat this. And then you're thinking
So
about
sort
the
of the
cookies
same
that's in the
same
cupboard.
mental wiring is there, and you
Exactly.
almost like, it's kind of interesting. I heard somebody explain this the other day, and I thought it was kind of profound, and maybe you can relate or maybe not, but they're like, it takes a great deal of mental fortitude, determination to not finish the food on your plate. But that
Yeah.
same determination can be applied to finishing that food when your stomach doesn't feel like it wants it. Can
Yeah.
you relate to that
I
kind
can
of mentality at
completely
all?
relate to that. Completely relate to that.
Hmm.
Completely.
It's interesting. So
Yeah.
you're down about 50 pounds with the lap band, and then complications with the esophagus, they drain it out. And this takes us up to 2015, which is crazy to think about. 2015 was 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
so that takes us to 10 years ago. Tell us about what happens next.
So my plan was to get a sleeve, get a revision to a sleeve, but because of the scarring on my esophagus, they wouldn't do it at that time. So I end up ballooning up to 358 pounds, and
From
my health from I think I was probably around 280 when I got the band, when the saline came out of the band. And then I gained weight because it took about 6 months from when they removed the saline from the band to when they actually removed the band. So I got up to 358. My health was this bad. My A1C was like 662. My triglycerides were like 550. My blood pressure was, stage 2 hypertension. I would walk upstairs in my house and have to sit down at the top of the stairs because I couldn't breathe. I was getting swelling in my leg from edema. So they had me doing some breathing tests to make sure that I didn't have some pulmonary issues going on.
Hmm.
So I went back into the program to get the sleeve, and I got the sleeve, and I got down to 274 at my lowest. And I kind of maintained around 285 or so for most of that time up to 2020 when the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, all bets were off. I was at home, working from home for a year and a half. I canceled my gym membership. I was stressing because my wife has lupus, so I'm concerned about her getting COVID. And
which is an
I
autoimmune
got
disease, right?
yes, yeah. So I
Yeah,
got back up to 335.
So
Go ahead.
you're down from 352 to 274 with the sleeve now. And COVID hits, and COVID does to you what it did to millions of people, is you
Yeah,
shuttered indoors. Everybody's sort of stressed out. Everybody's sort of eating their feelings, or removing the movement piece, or both in some cases. So, and then of course the stress of your wife. My wife also she has rheumatoid arthritis. You probably heard me say that before. So another autoimmune disease, and we had the
yeah,
same concern. In our house, was like, what happens when she gets this with her, lack of immunity
yeah,
because of the immunosuppressants that she's on. So I
exactly.
can identify with that stress, definitely, that you were feeling at that time. You get all the way back up to so you go down from 274 and you get back all the way up to what
335.
weight? 335.
335. Yeah,
So quite a roller coaster, man.
yeah. And I
So 2020.
I think in I think it was 2023. We went on a cruise with some of our family members, and now I was a guy that avoided pictures. I didn't want to take pictures, and I realized now I was hiding. And even though I had the mentality that I was always self confident, and I'm looking in the mirror and I don't see how big I am. But when we took pictures on the cruise, and I see how big I had gotten again. And I was disappointed in myself because I had gone to 2 bariatric surgeries, and I got back off of the cruise, and I decided I was going to get on keto, which you can relate to. I know you've talked about your keto journey as well.
Yeah.
And keto was pretty successful for me at first. I went from 335 down to 295, and then around June or July of that year, it just stopped working for me. And so I gained back up to 315. And that's when I started looking into Wegovy at the end of 2023.
How'd you hear about it?
Just commercials at the time. I didn't know anything about it. I saw a commercial, I believe, and I reached out to a doctor to see if I can get prescribed the medication. And it was at that time, I think, that Novo Nordisk had killed the starting dose. So he wasn't prescribed for me. He said it'd be like 6 months before I would get it. And then I had heard about Zepbound. Zepbound was coming out, so I heard about Zepbound, and I went to YouTube, and I found you, and you were my first education into Zepbound and Manjaro. So reached back out to the doctor, and he prescribed the medication, and I had it in a week.
So did you come across OTP before you got the medicine?
Yes. Yeah. I think I had got the prescription, and then I went to YouTube and found you on OTP, and then I started binging all your content to find out more about the medication, and joined your Facebook group and whatnot, and eventually found Sabrina and JT and Kim over on the plus sides as well. So you guys were all my introduction into the community.
Awesome. And now you got your own. So so you sort of get introduced into this world of Zepbound. And before we get into the sort of the content creation aspect of it, you start on the 2.5 milligram dose, and you started in 2024. So early, it was because you just reached your 1-year anniversary at the beginning of January, which, if I recall, that was also the beginning of Jernine's journey. She started in January too. Now she's going back probably 2 years, but you started in January, and I loved what you said, because you had like a 1-year update where you kind of gave here's how I got here. And you talked about starting on the 2.5 dose and sort of having the mentality of, I'm going to start on 2.5, and then I'm going to just, I'm going to follow the manufacturer titration schedule and get up to 15. But what happens is you end up losing a pretty good amount of weight in that first month on the 2.5. Tell us a little bit about your experience with 2.5 and then 5, and then how that sort of shaped your approach moving forward.
Yeah, I believe I lost 9.3 pounds in the first week. I think it was.
In the first week.
Yeah, this thing is going to really work. So at first, the first couple of weeks, I didn't really work out. I have a Peloton type bike that I work at, and I started working out on, and then I restarted my gym membership, and it's like, I'm going to put everything into this thing and see where it goes. So I did the first 4 weeks, and I forget how much I lost in the first month, but I think it was over 20 pounds. I would have to look at my records, but so then the doctor moved me up to 5, and I continued the weight loss, and then I start seeing content about not titrating up too fast, because once you get up to 15, there's nowhere to go after that. So I wanted to slow the pace of the titration. So when he moved me up to 7.5, I asked if he can give me a 90-day supply, and it was and I also found out around that time that I can also get my 90-day supply for the same price that I was getting the single month supply, the $25 for the savings card. So I was like, no brainer. So I did 7.5 for 3 months, and and then moved up to 10. I did 2 months on 10. I believe I lost 91, almost 92 pounds in the first 29 weeks. So I was averaging over 3 pounds a week.
29 weeks. Let me do some quick. That's just a shade over. That's 7 months. And you're 91 pounds at 7 months. So you're averaging over 10
6 months
a month. Yeah. Oh yeah. 6 months is 30 would be 24 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing progress. And you did that all at what dose again? 7.5?
I did two boxes of 10.
2 boxes of 10. So
and at that point, I hit my goal. Okay, go ahead.
You hit your goal at that benchmark at that 29 weeks. So let me just pause right there because I don't know how many new people watch the show. I know a lot of people that watch the show are just OGs who are here to support OTP. And if you're here and you're new, I think this is a learning moment because the clinical trials for tirzepatide, Zepbound, and honestly, this goes for the clinical trials for almost every single anti-obesity medicine that's being tested right now, unless it's a Novo Nordisk drug. Novo Nordisk is running their clinical trials different, and I'll get into that. But these trials have what's called a forced dose escalation period, meaning that regardless of whether you're still losing weight on a dose or having side effects on a dose, the next month you move up, period. It might not be the next month depending on the drug, but whatever their schedule is for moving you up, you move up regardless. And the problem with that is that it doesn't really mimic real life because as we know now, if there's anything that I've learned as a content creator, interviewing many, many people on this medication, have many people in our community, it's that everybody responds differently to this medication and these medications. And some people will get there on 2.5. Some people will get there on 2.5. You heard me right. It's not considered a therapeutic dose because they didn't measure the weight loss in the trial. But for some people, they're going to get there on 2.5. Then there's other people who are going to get all the way up to 15 and they're going to be like, when them higher doses coming out, Dave? I get that almost every day from somebody, including myself. And so what that shows you is that not everybody's going to respond properly. So one of the things that Dr. Daniel Rosen talked about, and he's a bariatric surgeon who prescribes GLP-1s and says that the future of obesity treatment, severe obesity, probably lies in some sort of combination with like a gastric sleeve and a GLP-1 combination. But essentially climbing the rungs of the ladder as slowly as possible, because you want to get every last ounce of usefulness out of each dose so that you're not hitting the top tier and maxing out and then you got nowhere to go. So that's sort of the theory behind what Charles is saying that he discovered based upon being within the community and hearing the stories of other people. I'm saying that as somebody who's interviewed doctors who say that, and then I'll get to the Novo Nordisk trials. Now the Novo Nordisk trials, so they make Ozempic and Wegovy. And I'm not obviously saying this for you, Charles, you already know this, but for the new people, they're designing their current clinical trials for their next generation drugs, CagriSema, amycretin. They also have their own version of GLP-1 GIP, which is like tirzepatide, which I, as a complete side note, find that very interesting. They're running their trials. And basically, they let people to get up to the highest dose they can tolerate. And then they let them lose as much weight. And then if they want to move up, they let them. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. And so Novo Nordisk is actually designing their clinical trials not to show as much weight as humanly possible with the medication, but they're showing basically how people in the real world are going to respond to these medications, because nobody at this point is really following the manufacturing titration process. Very few people, I would say, because most people are getting these medications, I would assume, from telehealth companies at this point. And I think that those doctors have seen enough patients on these medications, which is another plug for telehealth, that they know these things before we see, clinical trials that bear that out. So sorry for the tirade. I just think it's always worth mentioning for the newbies that just want to get up to that highest dose. I think it's very normal. That's what I did. There were shortages when I got on the medication. 7.5 didn't exist anywhere. 12.5 didn't exist anywhere. So I didn't even do those doses. I just did a month of everything until I got, by the 4th month, I was to 15 milligrams. So Word to the wise. So, all right. So now you're at goal weight at 29 weeks, which is insane. Down from, I don't know what you said your starting weight on GLP-1 was, but your high weight in the 350s, maybe around 330 pounds when you started GLP-1.
Yeah, I was 315 when I started.
Okay, 315.
Yeah.
Then what was your
And
goal
I
weight?
also want to
Yeah.
point out that on this journey, I worked out, and I want to put that out there because I think that's very important for people to understand. I went to the gym 5 to 6 times a week. I did 3 to 4 days of cardio and 3 days of strength training. Make sure I got my protein in. So I wasn't just relying on the medication to get me there. I think what was really exciting for me is that the medication allowed me to move, because I would have these cycles where I would go to the gym, start working out, and something would start falling apart, and I have to have surgery to correct it, or go through physical therapy, and then I get on the couch and I'm done for another 6 months, and then I try it again, and I have to stop and start. I went a whole year working out because of this medication decreased the inflammation in my body and my joints to allow me to get up and go to the gym every single day and make a routine out of it.
That's amazing. So you get down to your goal weight, which is you're maintaining in what range, sort of?
Well, I set a goal of 225, and no rhyme or reason why I said 225. And I don't know what.
Seems like a
I got
nice
to 225.
round number.
Yeah.
Not a round number, but
And,
nice number. Yeah.
and I started maintenance. I dropped down from 10 milligrams down to 5 milligrams. And that was a mistake, I think, because I probably should have stepped down. When I went down to 5, food noise came back like a vengeance. And
did you have regain?
I didn't regain. I mean, I gained like a pound over 4 weeks. But the food noise was crazy, and I was craving sugar and thinking about cookies and things where I hadn't been thinking about that for the first 6 months. So I bumped back up to 7.5. So I proceeded to lose weight since then. I lost another 20 pounds since then, since I started maintenance, trying to figure out maintenance. And that's been a very difficult challenge because of the way my body has responded to the medication. So I have to figure out a dose that's high enough to stop the food noise, but low enough to not cause weight loss. And I have to factor in my workouts with that. So I had to cut back my workouts. I went from 5 and 6 days a week down to 3 days a week, and altered the intensity of my workout to try to minimize the deficit. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think I may be there. I'm now in a period where I'm trying to, or I spaced out the dose to 10 days for the last few weeks. So to see how that goes.
Okay. Spacing out. What was the dose again? I missed that.
7.5.
7.5. So you're spacing 7.5 out 10 days. So let's talk a little bit about maintenance, because you're at this point where you're trying to find that ideal dose where you can maintain the medication, but you sort of tamp down that food noise that people so often refer to on these medications. I find it interesting because I was going to ask you, like, did you have to exercise less to maintain? Is that like a thing? And it sounds like you did have to kind of pull back on that. Just so interesting how many things you have to adjust to get to that goal. But then once you're there, like, it's just kind of a constant state of adjusting to maintain too. It's just kind of an interesting, because I think in the mind, I'm saying this as myself, but I think in the mind of people that have a long way to go, it's like, once I get there, I'm there. It's like a finish line, right? Where really it sounds like it's a finish line, but then they hand you the baton to start the next race, and it's just a different kind of race, right?
Yeah, and this has been harder than the actual weight loss portion of my journey. Just trying to.
In what way? In what way? When we say harder, do you mean physically, mentally, all of the above?
Just trying to figure out the right combination of things to do, because I can't eat more calories because I have the sleeve. So I'm limited to about 1,800 to 2,000 calories anyway, especially with no food noise, because I'm not going to overeat that restriction. And so something else has to give. It has to be the dose or the workout activity.
So
So
the
tinkering
calorie
around with those things.
restriction, the calorie restriction with the sleeve, is that like a quote unquote prescription that they give you? Like, when you got the sleeve now, don't eat over this amount of calories a day. Is that what they tell you? Or you're saying
Well,
that's
they
just like
they
always
say about,
advised?
they say about where I am now in my post surgery, I should be about 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day.
Mm.
So I've been able to eat within that using the medication, of course, but not without the
Sure.
medication. I was going to overeat that every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that I find like that 2,000 calories is like, in order for me to lose weight, I have to drop below that number for whatever reason. I have to drop below 2,000 calories. And it's just like, I'm miserable if I eat less than that. I'm
Yeah.
just miserable regardless of the amount of medication I have. And that's where I go. Like, I think that maybe Dr. Rosen's kind of concept in his head about a gastric sleeve, which you and I are kind of talking about briefly on the phone, like, if it can be done endoscopically, like, sounds pretty minimally invasive. If I can get the sleeve and then couple that at some point down the road with retatrutide or
Yeah.
Cagrosema or something, that might be the trick for me. Tell me a little bit, just because I'm curious on a personal level, about the gastric sleeve and about about the lap band. What were those surgeries like? How did you prepare for them mentally? And like, how was the recovery on them compared to kind of what you had in your mind?
Um, well, what both of them, you're you go through a process of education. You see a dietitian and a nutritionist. You have to lose a certain amount of weight before they will grant the surgery for you. They do this whole complete workup, body scans, blood work, and things of that nature. I think you have to go through, I think it was 2 weeks of classes for each of them. The surgery
Like
themselves were fine.
online classes, or you got to
No,
go somewhere, or how's that work?
you got to go in person. Yeah, you got to go in person, and then you have to meet with a dietitian and a nutritionist, and then they submit it to the insurance company for approval.
Okay.
The surgeries themselves weren't all that bad. They were done laparoscopically, so not big incisions. Recovery was great. Just a little pain and gas afterwards, because they put all the air in you to get in there laparoscopically. And the post surgery, you're just restricted to liquids for basically 2 weeks, so while the body goes through a healing phase, and then you graduate to puree foods, and then you slowly start working in solids and whatnot.
Okay. Did they put
Completely
you on anything prior to the surgery, or just post surgery?
nothing prior, except for I believe before I did the sleep, they did put me on cholesterol meds.
Okay. Interesting. So they got to do their due diligence before they put you under the knife, I'm sure. Interesting. So at what point in all of this crazy, basically yo-yoing with the scale, and then finding the right combination of diet, exercise, medicine, surgery, at what point were you like, I'm ready to sort of share this journey, and what prompted you to share?
I think I was probably maybe 8 weeks in on the journey, and what prompted me was I wanted to be able to share my story, because when I came to YouTube, I wasn't on TikTok, so I didn't know anything about the community over there. So I went to
Yeah.
YouTube to try to educate myself, and I wanted to see other men, and other Black men, and I didn't. The only man that I found during that time was you. There were no other men talking about this medication. There were a few women, and I wanted to see a man, and I want to see someone that looks like me. If you know anything about the Black community, if you invite us over, we want to know who's all going to be over there. So we want to see someone that represents us, and we want to make sure that it's safe. You know, we don't want to go through a Tuskegee experiment, so we want to make sure that it's safe, that we see other people doing it so we can do it too, type thing. So
I got you.
so that's why I was excited when I found JT. That was my first introduction to someone of color that was taking the medication. But I wanted to share my story for other men, not just Black men, but all men, so they can start looking at these medications and taking their health serious, because I started seeing the impact that it was having on me, and I wanted to share that journey and be that bridge back to someone else to open that door for them.
Yeah. Amazing. So you're over here on YouTube at Round Mound of Zepbound, and same handle over on TikTok, right?
Correct. And on IG.
So you're kind of like me, like you probably joined TikTok not too long after I did then by the timeline here, because I think I joined probably late 2023, and you're probably like middle of 2024 that you were joining over on TikTok.
Yeah, I think it was May or June when I signed up for TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm
TikTok
glad I did, because I saw so many great people over there, and the community is so great. I just love
community on TikTok has exploded. There's a lot of guys sharing their story.
Yes.
There's a lot of Black guys that are sharing their stories too. So I think the diversity is probably a little bit better over on TikTok, just because there's more people over there. You get all types of sort of flavors. I know that like when you came to this channel, you're probably like, I don't talk a lot about lifestyle modifications. I don't talk a lot about diet. I'm just trying to figure my way through this. I'm pretty screwed up when it comes to that stuff, but I do like the science, and most guys like to know about the science and how all that works. And so I'm just thrilled.
That's perfect for me. Yeah, I'm a data guy, so I love the information that you were putting out there. I wanted all of that. So I was very thankful for that. Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you here tonight, and we're glad to have you making content and sharing. And just, you have seen so much success. I think I get excited when I hear stories like yours, just because you struggled for a long time, man. You freaking white knuckled it for a lot of years, going up and down and trying to find whatever it was that was going to work for you. And it gives me hope. You got a few years on me, not much. You don't look like you do, but you got a few years on me. And so like, it gives me hope that at some point I'll get this thing straightened out. I do want to take just a minute to talk about another part of your journey. So you, in addition to all this weight loss and all of these changes that come with that, you're a TikTok star now, you're a YouTube guy now, like got all this going for you. But you kind of got thrown a curveball this year. Tell us a little bit about, kind of what's transpired in your life over the last 6 months. And would just love if you're willing to share a little bit about how that has kind of shaped your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going through this journey, and I'm seeing all the success, and I see all my health markers changing. My hypertension is gone. My LDL is still high, but it's going down. My HDL is going up into the green zone, and my A1C went from 5.7 to 5.1. So I'm seeing all these changes in my life, and my health is turning around. And then I went to see my doctor for a follow-up visit regarding Zepbound. She wanted to, talk to me about it and then order some blood work. So she, we're ending our appointment. She said, I'm going to send this blood panel in for you, and I'm going to throw in a PSA test. I hadn't heard of a PSA, didn't know what it was. And so she explained it to me. So I said, okay. I didn't expect anything of it. And I get the results back and for those that don't know, PSA is a test blood test that they do to check your prostate for men. And Mine came back elevated. It was, I think you want to be below 4, and mine was at 7.4. So she wanted to do another test in 6 months, but I was looking at the report, and I'm looking at what it was saying, and so thankfully my insurance allowed me to self-refer, so I referred myself to a urologist, and the urologist had an appointment with the urologist. She ordered another blood test called an ISO-PSA, which is a more specific test. That came back elevated. I believe you're supposed to be 6 or below on that, or maybe 10 or below. I don't remember which one. And I was at 26.2.
Just as a guy, how are you processing all this as it comes in?
I'm kind of scared because I don't know what's going on. You know, I'm researching everything and trying to figure it out and what it means.
Yeah.
I don't want to declare anything because I don't want to put myself in that negative mind space. And so I'm trying to let the things play out and put it in the back of my mind and let things play out however they are going to play out. So that came back, and she ordered a MRI test with contrast, and that came back, didn't show it. That wasn't good. So they ordered a biopsy. So I got the biopsy done in September, and it came back positive for cancer. And the thing about it, I'm learning about prostate cancer, I'm learning that Black men should get tested at the age of 45 because we are 80% more likely to get prostate cancer and twice as likely to die from it. And part of that is related to us not getting checked. I didn't know any of that. There's never been any discussions in my family or in my friends groups about prostate tests. I hear more about breast cancer than I do prostate. And so if you're a Black man, you need to start getting tested at 45, or if you have a family history of prostate cancer, you need to start getting tested at 45 so you can set a baseline. So I'm a Black man, and I also have family history, both on my mom's side and my dad's side. Didn't know about it until I was diagnosed. So thankfully, my doctor ordered this test on a whim and caught it early.
Wow.
So she caught it before it metastasized. Thing of it, I'm having they take 12 samples of the prostate. So they break the prostate into 12 sections, and they take a sample from each of the sections. And 10 of the 12 samples came back positive. So because I have so much of it, instead of having the option to do active surveillance where they just watch it over time, do random or do periodic blood tests to make sure it doesn't elevate any more than that, the only options I had was surgery or radiation. So at that point, you hear the C word and you start getting scared and trying to find out everything about it. And then I found out that metabolic syndrome is a leading cause of prostate cancer, which I had because of my obesity, and I'm starting to feel, did I cause this? So I'm feeling guilt because of my weight for so long. Did I cause this to happen? What if those bariatric surgery would have been successful? Would I still be in this situation?
Yeah.
And then you start feeling shame and guilt and all of those emotions as you're trying to figure out the best course of treatment. Do I want to do surgery and take on the risks that come with surgery, or do I want to do radiation and take on those risks? Because the risks are the same. It's just a matter of when they're going to happen. With surgery, you're going to have more of those side effects up front, whereas radiation, you may have them down the road. So instead of having ED at 75, you may get it at 70 with radiation. With surgery, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to have it because they're going to hit the nerve or whatever when trying to remove the prostate. So you're battling with those kind of decisions as well.
Wow, it's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot to wade through. So where are you at in your journey your cancer journey right now? Where, like, how far along are you in treatment, and what does the next 6 months to a year look like for you?
Well, I decided on radiation treatment and because I was
Versus
doing versus
removal?
surgery. Yeah,
Yeah.
versus removal. And I could have started in December, but I had a 2-week trip planned in December because my son and his partner were expecting our first grandchild, so I didn't want to miss that. And the doctor said it was okay to do that. And the reason why I couldn't start then is because the treatment has to be consecutive weeks, and that involves 9 weeks of radiation treatment, 5 days a week. So I'm starting the process. Last week, I went in and did the process of they installed 2 markers into the prostate for targeting, for radiation targeting. And they also put a gel in between the prostate and the rectal wall so that the radiation doesn't burn the rectal wall.
Protected. Interesting. I'm sure you learn all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, learning all kinds of stuff. So I did that last
so
week.
they install markers like physically they like implant something in there
there's
that they
two
can
little metal
target.
markers, like 2 little markers, probably about that big. And those are in there for life. And it's not a pleasant experience.
It doesn't sound like it could possibly be pleasant in any way.
The funny thing is, when I met with the doctor initially to talk about the procedure, he said, we offer laughing gas for this. You don't have to take it. And he said, do you want to the biopsy? Okay, right? I said, yeah. I didn't. It was uncomfortable, but it was okay. He said, oh, you should be fine with this. So then the office manager called me the day before the procedure and said the doctor was going to be in surgery, so you can show up for your appointment 15, 20 minutes late and you'll be good. And then she said, do you want the laughing gas? I said, the doctor said, I probably won't need it. She said, well, I'm going to tell you, 95% of the men get it. It's an option. You don't have to do it. But I said, well, I might as well get it. It's an extra $100, so I'll pay it. And so I paid for it, and I'd never had laughing gas before. So they gave me laughing gas, and he starts the procedure, and it was hurting like hell. So I'm thinking, is this working? If this is working, then the pain must be really much more than this, because this really hurts. It's real uncomfortable. So finally, as he's finishing the procedure, the room starts spinning. And I was like, oh, it's working now. So I went through the whole process.
So they didn't give you enough time.
Yeah. So,
well, at least you could have a sense of humor about it afterwards. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's wild. I think about how much life kind of has to change very fast for people that get a diagnosis like that. And I mean, I got a little flavor of it with the diabetes diagnosis, but it's not anywhere near the level of what it's like to get a cancer diagnosis. But having that little maybe sliver of what it's like to go in not expecting anything, and then they're like, oh yeah, you got this, and you're like, what? And it changes your life. That's got to be a big one. And I like a couple things that you said sort of jumped out to me. Like, I know why you did this, because like I'm a dude and I would do the same thing mentally. But like you're talking about how you blame yourself and you're like, did I cause this? And what if the lap band or the gastric sleeve would have been more successful? Like, you kind of go through all these things, and I kind of look at it from a different perspective, just from the outside perspective of like, yeah, but what if you never got the lap band or the gastric sleeve, and you'd never lived, at least for those periods of your life, with a lower weight? Like, how much worse of a condition would you have been in when this came? And
exactly.
Like, even with the diagnosis, I don't know, you're talking about the different sort of outcomes statistically based upon the fact that you're African-American, and the higher mortality rates with a diagnosis like this, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going, what are the mortality rates for somebody who would have gone into this condition at 335 pounds rather than 205 pounds? And how much worse off would you be? And so I'm very thankful for you. Like, at least at least, you know, looking at the positive aspect of going into it with so much better health, and you're like, you're in such better condition to fight this. And I'm sure that that's something that's like probably not much of a consolation when you're in the middle of it, but I think it sets you up to be successful in this. And I know you will. You seem like a strong guy anyway, just a strong-willed, strong, determined guy who's just going to do everything he sets his mind to. And so I'm confident that you'll come out on the other side of this and have quite a story to tell. I mean, you already do. I mean, your story is amazing. Where can people find you? Either you're on YouTube and you're on TikTok, right? Are you anywhere else?
Instagram as well, same handle.
Round Mound of Zepbound. All right, Round Mound of Zepbound. Charles, I really appreciate you hanging out with me a little bit tonight, sharing a little bit of your story with the On the Pen community. You've been through it, man. But there's another side to this story, and I can't wait to hear your story on the other side of this and see what you accomplish and see where you go telling your story. Is there anything you'd like to add tonight before we sign off?
Yeah, I want to give you your flowers. You have been such an amazing source of information and inspiration for not only me, but so many others in the community. I mean, like I told you, you were my introduction into this world of GLP-1s, educating me. You have just been a godsend for so many of us as a resource and as a advocate for all of us. So I want to give you your flowers. I know you have dealt with your ups and downs on this journey as well. I mean, your breakthrough is coming. Just stick to the fight, and we're all here to support you. Like you have contributed so much to us. I really appreciate you, Dave.
Charles, I appreciate that. I really do. We're working on, as Sabrina says, I'm working on receiving those compliments when people give them. So thank you for that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, game respects game. I feel like, you can tell when somebody's really working hard at something. And if you're somebody who also knows how to work hard at something, and I worked very hard at this. So I appreciate hearing the stories like yours who have been impacted by the work that we do. And I really appreciate you saying that here tonight. And it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. Those are the kind of encouragements I can use right now, frankly. The content creation journey is a rat race. It's a real rat race, because you're constantly trying to improve and do things better. And then in the midst of trying to do things better, you have something like your hard work just taken away for no good reason. And so, I will just say thank you for giving me that encouragement tonight, because I definitely could use it. So thank you. And thank you for being here. I appreciate
not to mention all the time you sacrifice away from your family as well. So
that's the other side of the story that nobody sees. And I don't really share much about my family. But I got four little kids, and it's hard to imagine. Just yesterday, my youngest had his 5th birthday. When I started all of this, which was over 2 years ago now, he was 3 years old. And now, it's just crazy how time flies. So we've definitely given up some trade-offs to do what we're doing here, but well worth it. And especially when I get to meet people like you, man. So I really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate you. One more thing I want to say is, I didn't say earlier is, I finally got off my CPAP machine. I was attached to that thing for 20 years, and I finally got rid of that thing last month. Oh my God, it's so great to sleep without that thing. My wife doesn't have to get up and go in the other room anymore.
Or you roll over. I mean, I sleep with the CPAP, so I'm well acclimated. The thing slips off, and it's like just in your face, waking you up in the middle of the night. And the whole idea is designed to make you sleep better, and half the time it's keeping you awake. But that's got to be a good feeling. First medication approved for sleep apnea right here, and Charles is the living testament to. You want to get off the CPAP. This is accomplishing that for many people. So excellent addition.
Thanks again, Dave.
Awesome, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having me.
God bless you in your journey, Charles. I know you come back and tell us when you're on the other side of that. You get your clean scans. We'll celebrate with you here at OTP.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Have a good
Thanks,
night,
everyone.
brother. Charles, Round Mountain Zepbound. I hope you'll check him out over here on YouTube and on TikTok. A member of the community for over a year now, and just a good dude. Just a good dude. Nobody in the community has a negative thing to say about Charles. He's got such a great story. Just like I said, man, he just kind of has that vibe of just a guy who, I have a feeling if Charles puts his mind to anything, Charles is going to accomplish that thing. And so obviously this hiccup in the road with the cancer diagnosis is no different. He'll be on the other side of this, and I can't wait to hear his story. Thank you, though. Thank you, community, for being here, showing up every week at On the Pen. If you didn't show up, there would be no need to do the show. No reason for it. So you're the reason that we put this together. And it is an honor to share stories with you. Just as a reminder, our friend Sabrina is doing a live panel every other Friday night where like 6 or 7 people come to the panel and they are community members. And so I just want you to be aware that if you would like to tell your story, this isn't the only forum at On the Pen that you have the opportunity to do that. You can do that also at on the Friday Night Live panel. If you are interested in becoming a part of that, I just want to let you know that we've got a spot up at onthepen.com. So if you would like to, you can see it scrolling below, onthepen.com/Sabrina. If you'd like to join that Friday Night Live panel and you'd like to tell some of your story and reminisce with some members of the community on screen, you have the opportunity to do that. We're getting such great feedback from the community members. It's just such an awesome thing that Sabrina has brought over here with her Friday night GLP-1 Live panel. Can't wait to do it again. It won't be this week. They're off this week, but they'll be back on next week. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure that you submit a form and then we will forward that on to Sabrina and make sure that she gets it and follows up with you. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen every week after the live stream. I hope that you'll join us on our Discord. You can get there by going to onthepen.com, the website. Like if you're like picking up on what I'm putting down, onthepen.com is the rallying point for all things that happen in the world of the On the Pen platform. But you can join our Discord by going to onthepen.com. And at the bottom of the screen, you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the Discord section. You can join it by clicking there. It's just, if you're scared of Discord, you don't know about it, it's just a big chat room and you'll figure it out really, really, really quickly. And there's 500, 600 people in there that can help you figure it out. The conversation from tonight continues there. I'll join in the chat there shortly after this live stream. I hope you'll join us. Thanks again to everyone. Thanks for being the best part of what we do here at On the Pen. I couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't do it without you. Now, until next week, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon each and every person watching this video. And may he be gracious to you this week. Have a great week.